You know, it was this Sunday I had a day off, and the day off was I had to go and take the docks out of we have a little cabin in Wisconsin. So my next door neighbor is a very devout Catholic, and I was talking to him. I said, I don't understand why Catholics vote Democrat, because Catholics are pro-life. And I didn't understand. He said, well, I have to be honest with you, I'm pro-choice. I said, you are? He said, yeah, as long as the baby gets to choose. That made sense to me. So I said, I'm going to have to use that. So I did. But thank you all for coming tonight, Peggy. Thank you very much for putting this together for us. It's been great. It's good to see Ron and everybody coming up here again. So I appreciate everybody coming here. And pro-life is basically something I've grown with. And I had to learn a lot about. And Paul has been a very big part of that in my education process as I've gone through this pro-life movement and understanding what this is all about. Because, I got caught up in the rhetoric, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what pro-life really meant to actually have to think about it. And it came like a laser beam one day to me in regards to what life is. Life is at conception. We become human beings. And that is where I started on my journey when I finally realized that. It's really a profoundly moving feeling when you get into a room filled with people that understand the dignity and the sanctity of human life. One reason for the being that true is that everyone in this room knows that the only reliable basis for a stable society and a system of justice is natural law. Whether you have studied the great writers of history or the founding fathers, whatever it was that got you here today, each of us understands that the foundation of all of our rights is the principle that there is a Creator. Once the reality of the Creator is clear, the only intelligent way to see government, justice, and human relations is in the terms of the laws that God has already established. It stands to reason, then, that the right to life is the most fundamental of all the rights. Some of us here today may be referred to as single-issue voters, but the simplicity of that statement is entirely inaccurate. What is true about us is that we understand that the right to life is the most fundamental of all the rights, and it's the right upon which all other rights are built. We aren't single issue. In fact, it is clear that the practice of abortion is tearing the very fabric of who we are as a nation. Many of us here today, or many of you actually, are truly the heroic veterans of the battle America's been fighting for more than 37 years since that rather infamous court decision of Roe versus Wade. Some of you have been warning America that we're embarking on a slippery slope that would take us from the practice of abortion to now the rationing of health care and allowing the government to decide who's going to live and who shall die. Now in 2010, with the passage of the Nationalized Health Care Bill, we must come face to face with the second ugly head of this demon that you were warning us about. I'm here to tell you that it has been a journey for me as well. And I have learned a lot along the way through the patience of so many. I'm so grateful for those of you who have valiantly fought the battle of this right to life for these last 3 decades. You have much to teach those of us to whom you are about ready to pass the baton as we take the battle into a new realm of a national health care system and the inevitable rationing of health care services. You have taught me that the rhetoric of the pro-abortion agenda is designed to deceive, under-inform, and confuse the debate. I once said that we should believe that the mother should have the right to decide when the mother's life is in danger. I thought it was the pro-life stance, that we should allow doctors to make decisions that we feel inexperienced. But it was the wise and battle-scarred veterans of this movement who gently educated me about what the life of the mother truly meant. How grateful I am for the men and women who have led the pro-life movement these years. You taught us well. I'm committed to continue your good work. And like my opponent, my stand for life will not be compromised by my affiliation to a political party or be sold for political favors. My commitment to protecting the right to life of the unborn and all human beings will not be a political football to be used for a career in politics. I'd like to take the next few minutes and just tell you a little about my journey as a man who has defended life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the Constitution that enumerates those rights. My goal tonight is that when you leave here, you will know what holds me bound to serve you as your next representative is the very document that I swore to defend my life to protect, the Constitution. I want you to know that I love this country, and I respect the system of government and understand that our Constitution enumerates our rights. It does not grant us those rights. You can't grant life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness because those are inalienable rights. Those are granted to us by God. No one or nothing will compromise my defense to our Constitution and our inalienable rights as human beings. We need to make it clear tonight that although my opponent calls himself pro-life, he has done more to add to this nightmare than to protect the life of the unborn. We currently have a representative that fills out the surveys of the pro-life groups. But when it comes down to take the courageous steps to protect the unborn against policies that his party is advocating, he puts politics over principles and sides with the opposition in this battle for life. Let's just take a look at some of the legislation to which he has signed his name. We can go back to 1993 when he voted yes to allow for fetal tissue experiments for women who had spontaneous or induced abortions. He voted for the Sanchez Amendment in 2000, which allowed abortions to be performed on demand at our military bases overseas. I am quite aware that our military doctors have quite enough to do to protect our soldiers, sailors, Marine, and airmen overseas than to perform abortions. His vote for the Sanchez Amendment is an outrage for those who are defending the right to life because it not only supported the killing of innocent human beings, it also allowed, with his support, a bill he had no problem with forcing our military medical corps into the business of performing abortions. Tell me, how can you be a pro-life legislator and vote for a bill that provides for abortions and pressures our military personnel into performing them? One word of encouragement, though, about our military doctors and nurses. The reason why there is so much opposition to the Sanchez Amendment, because on both sides of the aisle, is because our faithful service members serving in the medical corps and the armed forces routinely refuse to perform the abortions. Before the bill was signed into law, these legislators saw that it was unwise to continue to allow abortions in overseas hospitals when our own doctors on base refused to perform them, and then the service women would have to go outside in country to have the abortion performed, which put them at risk and also increased the cost. The next vote my opponent placed that contradicts the alleged pro-life stance is he voted against the Pence Amendment, the purpose of which was to strip Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider, of federal funding. Approximately 23% of Title X family planning goes to Planned Parenthood and its affiliates. Now tell me, how can a pro-life legislator vote against a bill that would defund Planned Parenthood, that has consistently worked against women's right to know legislation, waiting periods, and parental involvement statute? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a word for people that say that are on our side and then spend billions of dollars to work against us. We have a representative who says he's representing the district, but in reality, he only is loyal to the pro-abortion leadership of his own party when it comes down to making a tough call. He now has a proven loyalty to those that promote abortion rather than the principle of life and a vow to defend the most innocent and defenseless of us all. I'd like to talk with you about one more example of my opponent's hypocrisy for being pro-life. He voted for the health care bill. Because of my opponent's vote for nationalized health care, not only will the abortion industry get billions of taxpayer dollars, we will all be forced to pay for it. Thanks to his vote, the battle for the protection for life is now spread from the abortion clinic to the hospital bedside, where the elderly and the disabled will be the first victims of rationing of care and the inevitable euthanizing of people by government bureaucrats who will determine if they are any longer fit for productive or to society. This has happened in every single country that has implemented socialized medicine, and now it is happening here in America. When the procedure known as partial birth abortion was permitted in our country, we were outraged. We knew we had reached another cliff on a slippery slope to euthanasia. When my opponent voted for the nationalizing of the healthcare industry, we all cried out in frustration and disbelief. How could this have happened here? My heart ached when I attended recently a prenatal Partners for Life benefit this last June and listened to the founder of that great organization, Mary Kelly, explain how the doctors right here in Minnesota told her when she was pregnant with her son who had a genetic condition that every one of these children died at birth. When her son was born and confirmed the diagnosis, she was pressured to wrap him in a blanket and let him die. Her children, meanwhile, were doing research and brought her stories about people living in their 20s and 40s with the very same condition. When Mary confronted the doctors about this inconsistency, they responded by saying, well, we have to consider resources. That is what we come to. That is what my opponent's vote for the nationalized health care bill has got us. Right now in the U.S., 97% of Down syndrome children are aborted. With the new health care system, not only will the unborn, but the disabled and the elderly will be the most vulnerable to the rationing of care. The clear facts are these. In every single country that has implemented a national health care system, the result has been rationing of care. When the government bureaucrat is assigned the duty of determining who will get care, the criteria will be based on who will contribute most to society. The elderly, the disabled, and the unborn will be the most vulnerable and without a voice. Right now, when a mother receives an adverse diagnosis in pregnancy, she's pressured to abort. In countries that have socialized medicine, such as the Netherlands, these women have no choice but to abort or leave the country to protect their unborn child. In the Netherlands, the elderly walk around with wristbands that say, please do not euthanize me. The elderly in the Netherlands, when they get sick, they leave the country because they are afraid once they enter the hospital, they will never leave. That is what's headed our way, thanks to my opponent's willing betrayal of the life movement. To claim to be pro-life after voting for fetal tissue experiments, the Sanchez Amendment, and against the Pence Amendment, and his final act of betrayal for the health care bill, to still claim to be pro-life is the height of arrogant hypocrisy. Does he really think that we were ignorant, uninformed, that he could come back to our state and further this lie? Does he think we will ever believe in another thing for which he stands? It is time for authenticity. And there are two areas of principle that are so clear in my mind they are actually cast in stone. The first area is my commitment for the fight for life of the unborn, the disabled, and the elderly. We must repeal the health care bill or defund it, and that is what I'm going to do when I go to Washington, D.C. The other principle you can count on me is to never waver in the Constitution of the United States. I am honored bound to uphold the principles explained in this document and work tirelessly for the people of the 8th District and protect our inalienable rights. The federal government needs to be restrained and reformed. Sometimes we all get discouraged, and we will wonder if abortion will ever end in our lifetime. Will we ever see it as respected as it should be for life? And the answer to that is simply yes. We see it every day. We see it in each of us as we live our lives as it should be. We see the strength and perseverance of the pro-life movement. With God's help, we will, each and every day, take up the cause for life and defend it, and valiantly knowing that God's will be done. Take heart, keep faith, keep marching on, and keep moving forward, and victory will be ours. Thank you.